Welcome and thank you for waiting. All participants will remain in a listen-only mode for the duration of today's webinar. Today's webinar is being recorded and will be posted publicly. If you have any objections, you may disconnect at this time. I would now like to turn the session over to your host from the United States Census Bureau, Crystal. Crystal, you can begin.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our webinar, Orient Yourself with Large Census Geographies. I'm Crystal Jimerson, a training specialist here at the U.S. Census Bureau. I want to thank you for joining us today for the From Fundamentals to Functionality, Mastering Census Bureau Data webinar series. These webinars are a great opportunity for you to learn from our experts about how to access the Census Bureau data, tools, and resources. You can register for any of the webinars by visiting census.gov/academy. Before I introduce today's speaker, let's go over a few important housekeeping rules. As mentioned earlier, this webinar is being recorded. For your convenience, it will be uploaded to our Census Academy site with all supplemental materials relating to the webinar within 30 business days. We welcome written questions during the webinar. Please submit your written questions using the Q&A panel, which is at the bottom center or the right side of your WebEx screen. Please take a moment to locate that now. Once you find the Q&A panel, make sure you choose all panelists from the drop-down menu. This will ensure we see your question. Also, we ask that you do not include any personal or business identifiable information with your questions. We suggest keeping the chat panel open as we will provide key links and other resources throughout the webinar. Keep in mind you won't be able to respond to the chat. That is for us to send out links and other resources related to the presentation. My colleagues will be monitoring the Q&A panel, and as time allows, we will answer your question directly through the panel, or we will share your question with the presenter to respond to during the webinar. As you know, we are in a virtual environment, and sometimes technical difficulties might occur. If you are having issues, try a different browser such as Chrome, or consider logging out and coming back into the session. If you are having audio issues, try selecting the computer audio or calling into the webinar via phone. Now I would like to introduce our speaker, David Krager. Thanks again for being here today. David, you may begin.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much, Crystal. I am going to just move forward a little bit with my slides. So I am actually in Data Dissemination and Training branch at the Census Bureau. We have a lot of people around the country who do exactly what I do, and we like to bring workshops and data, explain the data to you. We also produce data gems, and so they're up on our Census Bureau website, and you can go in there and look at how-to videos. And you can also get information about courses. We have those up on our website as well. And then, like myself, I am an instructor at a webinar today. Over here on the right is actually it's a email address that you can send questions into. And depending on where you are in the country, we try to find somebody, a person like myself who lives in that area who can help you with that data. There's also a phone number there that you can call if you want to. We do have, you can leave a message and somebody will call you back relatively quickly and try to sort out your problem. So let me just tell you a little bit about myself. I have been at the Census Bureau 28 years, maybe 29 years, I don't quite remember. First, I started out as a geographer in the New York Regional Office, and then more recently, meaning about 10 years ago, I moved over to this branch, Data Dissemination, as a specialist, and I actually go out and give workshops and presentations, much like what I'm going to do today, but in person, and sometimes, just over the internet in person as well. I previously worked as a cartographer and also worked for a couple mapping companies, and I was also a French instructor, and I did my undergraduate degree at Clark University and my master's degree at Rutgers Newark here in New Jersey. And I also studied 2 years overseas in France. So let me just move ahead here a little bit. What we're going to talk about today are what we call large census geographies. So I'm going to give you some background information. And if you were on my other presentation, I think that was 2 or 3 weeks ago, it was about smaller geographies. This first part is going to seem a little redundant to you, so I do have to go through those concepts. Once I do that, then I'm going to talk about these larger geographies, or what we term larger geographies. And then I'll take kind of a little bit of a break between and see if there are any questions at the end of this slide deck. And then I will go over to data.census.gov, and we'll just sort of I'll play around a little bit and show you, how you can see some of those geographies and grab some of the data from that website. When we do that, I recommend that you don't try to follow along on another screen. I might be going a little bit fast, and it might be better if you just sort of sit back, relax, and watch what's happening. So, all right, so let me just move on and just give you some background information. We do have I have up here 2 types of censuses that we conduct. So on the left is the most famous one. It's the 2020 census, or the 10-year census. So the last one was in 2020. That is 100% data, meaning every housing unit is touched upon, and meaning somehow they got a questionnaire or somebody visiting them. We're concerned with how many people live in the United States. And this census is pegged to a point in time, so always April 1st, and a year that ends in 0, so 2010, 2020, and forthcoming 2030. We are counting people, and we are counting housing units. So we're not just concerned about the people, we are concerned about housing units as well. Okay, so that's, I would say, the most famous thing that we do. And maybe on the right, I'll say maybe nobody likes this, but the most infamous thing that we're doing is the American Community Survey. And that is actually sampling, and we're concerned with how people live in the United States, and we're conducting the American Community Survey every month of every year, and we don't stop for anything. All right. So it is actually pegged to a 2-month rule, and when we arrive at a house, or when we send the questionnaire to a house, we ask, are you here for 2 months? So were you here for 2 months? Are you currently here for 2 months? Or will you be here in the future for 2 months? It's however you choose to answer that. And if the answer is yes, then you are in scope. All right, and we conduct the survey, and we're looking for sort of deep demographic information, characteristics of income and poverty and education and housing, healthcare, all sorts of things that are in the American Community Survey. So that is the thing that most people ask me about, is American Community Survey. It is the information they want the most, but sometimes it will be the decennial census. So in order to think and to understand the American Community Survey, I always say this slide and the next one are the 2 most important ones. We have this rule, and it's called the 65,000 population rule. And anything over, meaning a municipality, a county, a state, whatever it is, if it's over 65,000 in population, you can get that data every year, and it's called 1-year data, and that data comes out in September usually. All right. If you have a place, whatever it is, census tract, a county, place, minor civil division, zip code, that's under 65,000 in population, then we call that 5-year data. Okay, that you cannot get the data. You can get data every year, but it isn't just from the previous year. It is from 5 years worth of, I'll say, gathering of data. And then we've got the average over 60 months, and we release it every year in December. All right. So this is where I'm dividing the line between what we call large geography and a small geography. So large geography in the eyes of the Census Bureau, more or less, means over 65,000 in population. So you could have a very large area in an expansive municipality, for example, like Juneau, Alaska, And in the minds of some people, that would be, wow, that's a really large area. That's a large geography. But in the eyes of the Census Bureau, as I'm, putting this forward, Juneau, Alaska is under 65,000 in population, so I'm not putting that in the lump of large geographies. So that anything that's over 65,000 population doesn't matter the size. It doesn't matter whether it's a small area, large area, then that is a large geography. So let's think of that. We're going to be looking at 1-year data and 5-year data. The large geographies, the cities, the large counties, large populated areas, they have access to 1-year data, meaning from the previous year, and also 5-year data, meaning from the previous 5-year average. So they get both. All right. And so we will look at the large geographies today, or what are usually the large geographies. So we also have a geography hierarchy. We tend to say that things, as we define them, nest one within another. So here, for example, we have nation, state, county, tract, block group, block. All right. Notice that block at the bottom is only a geography area. I'm circling my arrow there. That is available from a 10-year census. Okay, everything else up here, you can get some data in some fashion from the 10-year census and from the ACS. Okay, and so today, the things I've highlighted here in this sort of cream yellow color are what I'm saying are the most prevalent geographies that tend to be in those large geographies, large in population. So, for example, the whole nation, of course, states, many counties tend to be over 65,000. Congressional districts are always over 65,000. I'm circling my arrow here on the left. And then over here on the right, metro and micropolitan areas, they're always over 65,000. Then down here to the lower right, I'm circling my arrow, we have places. Large places and cities are over 65,000 population, and then public use microdata areas are over 65,000 population. So we will take a look at those today as best we can, and I'll describe those to you, and hopefully you'll get a better feeling for those. So let's just start here. Place. When I left off a few weeks ago, I said this is the place that I live in. It's hypothetical. I've invented it, but a place in the eyes of the Census Bureau is like an organic concentration of population. Okay, so that can either be a legally bounded entity that has become incorporated, so that's considered a place in the eyes of the Census Bureau, or if it never incorporated, but it looks like it should have incorporated, then we offer the ability to towns and counties, or even ourselves, we do this, we create what's called a census designated place. And the census designated place is then on that same list as incorporated places. And that's how that goes. The largest, let me go back one. That went too fast for me. The largest census designated place in the US is probably Honolulu, Hawaii. Anyway, just keep that in mind. So here's my place, right? City, and it's within a county. And let's think about counties. Counties are legal subdivisions of states. They may have been constructed from townships, usually in New England. And then we also have all these equivalents down here on the left. So we have Puerto Rico has municipios, Louisiana has parish, Alaska boroughs, Connecticut planning regions, and then some states have independent cities. And these are all equivalents of a county. Okay, so just moving forward, here's my county again. And that county is within this created state that I made, my hypothetical state. And there's my city right there. And my city decides to grow and expand a little bit, as cities do. Okay, and so cities, actually states, let me go back to that. It's a primary legal subdivision in the US, but we do have some state equivalents as well. And you'll sometimes see those on our data wheels we like to give people. So District of Columbia, Puerto Rico, U.S. Virgin Islands, Guam, American Samoa, and Northern Mariana Islands are all considered state equivalents. So this is my hypothetical state over on the right, and that's a city in it. where I hypothetically live. And then these are other cities that are in that state. The state only has 6 counties in it. So one of those small states with a number of counties. So that's what that would look like. So those are the incorporated cities, but then we have all these other little pockets of population, whether they've incorporated or not. And so you see them here, and they're sort of growing, and you see them all over the state, and that's what it looks like. And you have some areas of the state that look like less populated than other parts of the state. And then you also see where people sometimes push across the state border. They don't really care about the state border, and maybe they're across from the city and they're on the other side of the river in another state and living there. So that happens too. It's actually quite prevalent around the country. So let's think about this. Our first one of the big geographies I wanted to talk about and define with you is congressional districts. They're defined every 10 years, and they are created after a 10-year census. So for congressional districts, all the states, are doing this for their election of representatives. The number of congressional districts in each state changes depending on the census, right? And we use something called the equal proportions method in order for states to figure out, we figure out how many congressional districts they're going to get, and then they're going to use census blocks as their borders to figure out where they want to draw those districts. Okay, now down here on the left, I'm circling my arrow. States delineate congressional districts using their own criteria. So every state does it a little differently. They don't all do it at the same time after decennial census, maybe 1 year, maybe 2 years, who knows. They try to have it has to have contiguity. You can't have a piece over here and a piece over here that's discontiguous, but it has to be contiguous. And we are sort of assigning I'm going to say number within a range. They kind of have to have equal populations within each state. They try to observe boundaries. Many states do, whether it's a county boundary or a city boundary, but that doesn't always happen. They can just do it using census blocks that they want to. If they reapportion, whenever they reapportion, whether it's 1 year after or 2 years after, or lately some states are reapportioning, they are supposed to be using the decennial numbers that they were given. Okay. So let's just keep that in mind. So look at this over here on the right. This is my hypothetical state, and here we have 2 congressional districts, and notice how it cuts in and out, and in some places it can even cut right through the middle of a city. Okay, so you see that right here. So that is, what happens. Every state has its own method. I can't really speak to those methods, just understand that there's probably 50 different ways of doing this. When we are looking for the data, and I'll look in data.census.gov today, we're going to be looking in all geographies, and just letting you know that the state and congressional districts, they're not part of the big 10 geographies, which are listed over here. You actually have to dig down a little bit and go looking for that data. And so I'll show you how to do that today. Public use microdata areas, these are areas that are defined, once again, after a decennial, and we're using that 10-year data. So we do have to actually use the population data. And there's a lot of participation with states and sometimes county governments or huge city governments, and they're coming up with this in the year 2022. That's when we release that data, after it's given to us by the states, and then it's just sort of used to look at ACS data in, I want to say, in lower populated areas. That's not really true. The city of New York uses these PUMAs. They're larger areas, so more people, 100,000, 200,000 are surveyed through ACS, but we can release more data. Okay, so there would be extra tables that are released and little bits and pieces of data, and also we have something called MDAT, microdata, and you can do some cross-referencing in there yourselves. So anyway, the building blocks of PUMAs are basically counties and tracts. Okay, so if you look right here, these are my county boundaries. Notice it follows the county boundary, but at this point right here, you can see my arrow right in the center, it went around, it went off the county boundary and it followed a tract and then hooked up again to the county boundaries. That does happen sometimes. It's a matter of, balancing population in there. So we leave that, and these do change every 10 years, and I hope to show you that. And these are actually, I know a lot of people will say these are numbered, like they get a numbered code, but I don't see that too often. It's really named. So I'll show you that today. So this is what the PUMA data looks like when we go into the system. These are the names of the PUMAs. Often they're trying to give it some sort of an identity so you can kind of figure out what you're looking at. Often it will have the name of a region or a county before it and then a hyphen and then a little bit of a breakdown. So that is for PUMA data. And then let's go back to this. So we have this thing called I should put this up here, the MSA, Metropolitan Statistical Area. These are areas that are created post-decennial, and these are released a little bit later than the PUMA because they're not just building on population. We are also building on economic information and how people commute and move in an area. And we also, I say we, but I think this is the Office of Management Budget who works on this. They're also looking for core areas that work in this, and a core area has to be 50,000 people or more, right? And that would be a city or whatever it's going to be. And then it's built with county geographies after that. Okay, so this is MSA, and MSA may cross county boundary or state boundary as well. So notice this is my MSA here. So when this was created, they selected the counties in this one over in the other state that had high populations, and it had to have a center core area right here. And that's sort of how that works, okay? And these areas out here did not get included in that MSA. Now, they may be in a micro statistical area, but for our purposes, this is the Metropolitan Statistical Area, okay? So once again, years that end in 3, right? So when we're looking for data, I often say maybe you might have to skip the year with the 3 on the end, not necessarily. We'll look at that today. So MSA, here it is. All right, this is what it looks like. And then as I move along, I'm adding the PUMA to the mix. So you see what that looks like. So things overlaying one on top of the other. And then here we have the congressional district as well. So notice how all these different things lay on top of each other. There are different ways to get data for you, depending on what you're trying to accomplish, and depending on what type of data you need. Okay. Let me move forward. I will go into this today, data.census.gov. It's also called Explore Census Data. The key to this is the URL right here. I'm circling with my arrow. And then over here on the right, when I get in there, the key to getting this going is actually Explore Filters when I get there. And that would be, the way to get things going. We do have data in here for years going back to 2000 and then multiple surveys. I'm only showing you data.census.gov today. We do have other census products that we release where you can get some of this data as well. For example, the ACS narrative profiles has 5-year data in there. It does have a lot of the same information. It's just presented a different way. So this is my last slide. I'll leave this up here. Are there any questions? These are just my sites of interest or reference points if you wanted to use those, and this is my contact information and ask data. So let me just pause really quickly and ask, are there any outstanding questions in the chat? Maybe I can answer them now, or I'll answer them as I move forward.
I'd say you're good so far, so go ahead and then we'll answer questions at the end.
Okay, good. All right, let's just do this here. Let me move that up. Okay, so I'm going to move over real quickly here. Okay, can you see that? Lacey, maybe your speaker was on Explore Census Data.
Yes,
Is that
sir.
up? Okay, all right, great, thank you. Okay, so let's start out this way. We're in data.census.gov. It's also called Explore Census Data, and I tend to go right for this, the Explore filters, and it goes to filtering. So if you've never seen this before, I do want to say maybe don't try to follow. It's up to you, but I may go a little bit fast. You may not want to follow on your screen. It's up to you. Over here on the left are the filters. They come open. So if you can see my little hand moving around here, let me just close them so you see what we are up against. So yeah, so here they are. There are 5 different filters. The top 4 are the ones that I tend to use. I don't use the coding one. And then up here we have some other tabs, and we can sort of at times, let me put it that way, we can flip between table and maps and charts if we need to. But let's just start out. I'm going to look at PUMAs first. I think those are the most seem to be the most unknown geography, but I do want to just sort of show you what they are. So a lot of people would say start with your geography first, but let me tell you, for the purposes of what we're doing today, I'm going to say don't do that. Start with your year first. And the last time we've released ACS data to the public is 2024. So I click on that. All right. And you can see there's a little check mark here, and you can see up here where my cursor is, there's a filter for the year 2024. So that's there. That's the first thing. And then the next thing I'm going to do is probably come down here to surveys, and I'm going to say, okay, I want American Community Survey data. And I'm just, I can take 1-year data or 5-year data, and a PUMA will have both. I'm going to select the 5-year data, and I just say I want the data profiles. These are like the Walmarts of tables. They come out every year, have a lot of information in them, but there's only 4 tables per year. So up here, there is a filter. It's sort of breaking this down pretty quickly for me. And the last thing I'll do is come here to geographies, and I see that there are no PUMAs in here. So I always say these are the top 10 geographies here that people look for the most. But come here, down here, if you can see my cursor going back and forth, it says all geographies. I click on that, and then I come here and I say, okay, I need PUMA. So PUMA means public use microdata. So I'm just going to type in the word public. And here it is. It comes up right here. It's ready for me to select it. I select it there, and I say, okay, but I still need to tell it what state I'm working in. So I live in New Jersey. I'm going to say, okay, New Jersey. Let me click on that. And then I say, wow, look at that. Remember the nesting that I showed you? The PUMAs, they tend to nest within a state. So that's why they are all here. They're all nested within New Jersey, but I need to filter down to my county. And so I'm lucky that in my state, the PUMAs are all grouped by county. They may not be like that in your state. You may find a PUMA that's maybe 2 or 3 counties together. But for me, this works. So I put in the word Essex, so I know that I'm in Essex. So here we have a little bit of a problem, right? I know that there are only 7 PUMAs in my county, but I believe right here we have 9. And so the old PUMAs are mixed in with the new PUMAs. And what I'm going to have to do is just select them all like that. And so now I have all the PUMAs 2024, and I have 5-year data. And then I'm just going to come down here. If you can see, there's a button down here on the right. It says search. I can either click on the search down here, or I can click up here where I have my cursor now on tables, and it will show me the available data. Okay, and there it is. But actually, here are all the tables and the information over here. But I just want to go straight to maps right here and show you what the PUMAs look like. Now it's selected a variable, but look at this. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 PUMAs in 2024. Okay, and so that is within my county. If I were to go back over here on the left, where it says 4 to results, these are the different tables that were available, DPO 2, 3, 4. And I can actually just up here, it says maps and tables. I can sort of toggle back and forth. And these are what the tables look like. They're huge. They have a lot of information, but sometimes they have extra information. For example, language, the table B16001, that's one of the only places you can find it is in the PUMA area, and it'll have about 40 different languages in an area. So that could be very helpful for you. But let me go back to the map. I just want you to see this. So here is the 2024 area right there. If I click on that, okay. And I've already set up another tab, and hopefully I can get the right one. I want to show you what the PUMA before 2022 looked like. Okay, so I want you to see this is 2024, and then let me click here, and if I'm correct, I'll look at my it doesn't say the year. Let me see if I can see the year. So over here in the filters, I just want to see the results, view all the filters. So this is 2020. Okay, let me go back, close that. So let's look at this map, all right? I'm going to go back and forth between the two maps. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 PUMAs in this area, right? This is from 2020. So even though now the new PUMAs are called the 2020 PUMAs, that means they're built on the 2020 data, but it doesn't mean they were fabricated in 2020. So let me just flip up here. I'll go back to the now, what we look at now. So look at this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now there are 7 PUMAs, right? And that happened in 2022. All right, so there is a gap in time there between 2020, 2022, when the states are trying to take that 2020 data and put it together and create new PUMAs. So those are the PUMAs. I just want you to get a feel what they look like. But there is extra data in there, and you're welcome to contact me if you want to get a little bit extra information on that. All right, let me move to the next thing here, and I will search once again, explore filters, and I'm going to just move along a little bit. I want to show you MSAs. So apparently MSAs are part of what I would call the Big 10 right here. And I'm going to do the same thing a little bit, but let me come down here. Let me find my year. So we are 2024. I'll click on that. So there's 2024, right? And I want to come down here and show you metropolitan statistical areas, which, remember, they go across state lines. So they are not really within any state. And so what we are going to have to do, here they are. They're all sort of nested within the United States. So what do? You kind of need to know sometimes the name of your metropolitan areas. So I know mine is New York, and I put that in New York. So New York, Newark, New Jersey. I click on that. Okay, and I don't think I'm even going to select any data. I'm just going to look at the map so you can see it. Okay, so look at this. This is 2024 is what I selected, right? And so I want you to see this. This is New York City is here. If you can see where my cursor is, I'm circling. This is Long Island. It is really long, by the way. This is the Hudson Valley, just above New York City. And this is northern New Jersey and middle of New Jersey right here. This is the Delaware River between New Jersey and Pennsylvania. This is Pennsylvania over here. So this is all one metropolitan statistical area. And if I were to come back here to results, it gives me all sorts of data here. Gives me, because I didn't tell it what type of data I wanted. So it's given me over 1,400 results, right? So if I were just to pick, one table, sometimes that can be very helpful. I just say if you pick a table, it'll kind of get you going a little bit better, and you can flip between the map and the table up here. But let me show you something with the filters. So notice I only have 2 things in the filters up here on the left. I click on the filters, and now I'm going to change the year from 2024. So I get rid of that. I come back down here, and so let's remember 2023 was the changeover year. So let me go back to 2021, and I threw that in there into the mix. Okay, and let me go up here. So now we have 2021 New York, and I'm going to close this, and I have to somehow, well, I do have some data selected. So look at the metropolitan statistical area now. This is Pennsylvania. This is pre-2023. Okay, it used to include this county out in Pennsylvania, but it no longer does that. Okay, so things have changed. They've changed the way the strategies behind the metropolitan statistical areas, and so it's different. Okay, so depending on the year, and it's very important when you're looking at this data in our system or whatever system it is, you choose the right year and be aware that the boundaries do change. Okay. Okay, and so let me just go back to filters over here, and I think what I will do is just sort of clear the filters here. Okay, clear. So you can do that. You can always use the back and the forward button up at the very top if you need to. But here we are. We're back to square one, back to the filters, and I do want to go down and just kind of show you congressional districts. So until now, what I've done is always select the year. Let me select 2024, and I went to the list before, and I used the list method to find the geographies that I wanted, right? I could look down here, or I could go to all geographies, and I could say, okay, well, show me congressional districts. I could come up here and I could look at it that way, but I don't want to do it that way this time. I'm going to show you another way, because let me just explain, there are 3 ways to find your geographies. You can do it through the list, you can do it through the map, and you can also do it through the list in what we call a within geographies tool, and I'll show you that in just a minute. But let me just close this and come over here. So here's my map. I do have a year selected, and up here I'm going to select a layer. So if you see this right here circling with my icon, there is an icon, and you can come down here and you can just type in the word Congress, like that. Here it is, congressional district, the 119th congressional district. I select that, and it shows me everything on a map for the whole country. And you can do that with anything up here in the layering function. Okay, so I'm going to select a congressional district this way using this method, and I just was looking for the most unusual, most creative congressional district, and I found this one in Texas. Sorry, Lacey, I know you're from Texas. This is, I believe, San Antonio and Austin are connected by one congressional district. So this is congressional district 35. And so I want to select that. And I click on this select icon right here, and I select it, and it puts it on the map for me. Okay, and so here it is. If I deselect and I move in a little bit, we can see what's going on. I can change the base map. There's an icon up here, and I can say, okay, turn on this detailed map for me, and I can kind of get a feeling. Here's the east side of Austin coming down this way, probably along an interstate highway, I don't really know. And then here's part of San Antonio that's part of the same district. So, very interesting, very creative, if that's the right word to use, district. Anyway, every state has their own method, right, of doing this. We don't govern it. We don't tell them what to do. All right, so here's this congressional district, and I can come back over here to filters, and oops, I went too far. And here's my table. That's what I want to do. I just want to see the data for the table. So we have all sorts of data available to us right here, over 1,600 for this congressional district. And then if you wanted to parse it down a little bit over here on the left, you can say survey or topic, whichever way you want to go. You say American Community Survey, maybe the 5-year data, once again, data profile. Here it comes, and here's a huge table of information. Or if I open over here on the left, results again, I can window shop. I can go through these different tables if I want to go that route. Okay, so that is something you can do with that. And then let me just go back to filters really quickly. All right, so we have this congressional district up here, we have 2024, and we have ACS 5-year data. I'm going to get rid of the congressional district and show you yet another way that I mentioned. So let's just say we want to look at that congressional district and break it down more granularly. We can come over here and say, well, okay, I selected my year. I want census tract information. So I census tract, and I say within Texas. So I come here, Texas, and then up here there's a little button that says within other geographies, and I say within a congressional district. Notice I can do it within place, state legislative district, and I think one more is over here. But let's do a congressional district, and that was congressional district 35. Here it is. Okay, so you can click on that, and notice it says all census tracts fully or partially within congressional district 35. So even if they just like half a block or even along the line, I think sometimes they come into that congressional district, they will be selected. Okay, I'm going to click on the X there. I'm going to go, we have some data selected right here, and I'll click on the map just so you can see what happens, but you can certainly download this if you want to. So here is that congressional district, and it appears that most of those census tracts, it's selecting them that are within that district or partially within the district, and they're putting that information up there. Now, sometimes certain parts of data do not appear. I don't know why. I have found that sometimes if I move to the previous year that the data all will appear. That happens too. All right. So just another way you can grab this data, if you go back to, up here on the left, tables. At the tables part is where you're going to download the information, is right here. There's a great download icon. You click on that. You can download it as Excel, CSV. If you're a GIS person, you should download this as a zip file because that's where you're going to get your GeoID numbers. Okay. All right. One last thing. I don't know how much time I have left. Okay, I have some time. Let's do one last thing. I'll go back to filters over here. I'm going to clear out a couple things. I just want to show you one thing. Cities, another thing. So 2024, let's do this. We will map all the places in the United States, okay? And I'm going to do that really 2024 places, and I probably want 1 year data. So let me do the data first, just to show you. So American Community Survey, I'm going to select 1 year data, and let's see if this works for me. Just take this data profile. Okay, so 1 year data profile right there. Sometimes I try to just mess up the system. Okay, so I'm going to do this all places within the United States. So remember the caveat is 65,000, which is 1 year data, which is what I selected. So we only should get places that are about 65,000 in population. Okay, so one little thing. So here's, oops, did it bounce out on me? Did I do the wrong thing here? All places within the US. Okay, this will often happen to you. You get a thing here that says the table's too large, will not load the table. By the way, it will load the map if I click on the map, but if you really need that table, just a little thing here says where my cursor is on the lower right, open the table, and it will open the table for you. So then I click on the map because I just want you to see. Click on the map. Let me make that map larger. I'll push this over to the left. And it is scale dependent. So you do have to toggle in a little bit. And let me just come up here. I'm going to map the number and the total population. So if you saw what I did, there's a little down arrow in the maps, and you can control the variables that are in that table. So I say the number of people living in those places. I click on that. I click off, and it's going to start mapping that. But I really want you to see this. So notice it sort of has done the cartographic thing saying, okay, 5 divisions of information. There's a legend over here. And I'm just going to control this map a little bit. Notice all these CDPs and incorporated places. You can see the names and the outlines on the map, but I'm going to come over here, control the color. I'm going to change the color to red and make it not transparent right there. So I clicked on colors up here, and I'm going to do one little thing. I'm going to trick it a little bit. I say, okay, I only want 2 data classes right there. And I want my data class, if I can do this, I think I have a percentage going here. Let me fix this, I think. Hold on a minute. Let me go back to number, and I wanted total population. Yeah, that's what I want. Okay, so look what I did over here in my legend. It's sort of telling me, let's look at the classes really quickly. Make sure we have, no, we don't have what I want. Okay, so I want that break, and I'm going to make it 65,000. I enter that, and let me see if I got this right. And I don't want this break. I put that in there. And so here we have over here on the left, 65,001 to anything higher. And look at that. I've colored in all the places, whether they're incorporated or CDPs around the country, that have more than 65,000 people in them. Okay. And so as we come down here, we can see Jacksonville, Florida, how huge that is, right? We can see things all around the country, all the cities in Texas. As we move to the west, we see other things. And I always like to point this one thing out. Okay, just bear with me. I'm going to move this map out to Hawaii if I can find it. So let me zoom into Hawaii. And so here we have one of the largest non-incorporated places in the country. Urban Honolulu, 344,000 people, or 345,000 people, if I round it up. So this is just something you can do with this if you're trying to break it down, maybe map it, or get a feeling of what's really going on. Let me zoom out, move back in to the country. So Lacey, I think I'm going to stop here, and I know we have some extra time and I'm talking fast, but does anybody have a question or maybe a challenge for me?
Well, I was going to say, awesome presentation as always, David. Thank you. And I think you'll appreciate this. So that congressional district in Texas that you were mentioning, 35, you're absolutely right. It covers an interstate, and it's covering Interstate 35 between Austin and San Antonio. So it's like the easy one to remember because it's such a unique shape too. Follow the interstate.
If those interstates are wide,
Yep.
that's a block in the middle of the interstate.
That's exactly right. So thank you for that. The one thing that, can you just touch briefly on how urban and rural areas apply to both like small or large geographies, or how they don't? Just kind of how those kind of work within this mesh.
Okay, good.
Right.
That's a good question. So the urban, we do map urban areas. I mean, we have information in here in urban areas, a little hard to find. Maybe I could show that there, but the metropolitan statistical areas and the PUMAs and that sort of thing, they are not based on urban areas. I don't mean to say it that way, urban rural. So they're based on, yes, urbanness, I'll call it, in a 50,000, a municipality that has 50,000 people in it, at least a core area, but also economic activity, and I think some commuting activity as well. So it's a little bit different. And also I like to think of, that's why the PUMA information is really just based on population, so that can get done quicker, by 2022, but it takes another year to get that metropolitan statistical area, micropolitan statistical area data out there, because it's not just population, it's also economic information as well. But yes, we do have urban, rural, if it's hard to find.
I can drop that in the, drop it in the chat too. So
okay.
That was it, unless there was anything else that you specifically wanted to cover. The rest of the questions were specific and answered in the Q&A.
Okay, I felt like I was going really fast.
It looks like you covered it. So very, very well done. Thank you.
Hopefully I did. Okay, so just to know that, for ACS, Yeah, the 65,000 is a rule. You know what? Let me just show you this though. I'll do this real quick so oh, there's my warning here. Okay, narrative profile. I'm putting that up here. The ACS narrative profiles, just another way to get data. Let me click on that really quick. If it's working for me. And this is always based on 5-year data. So we don't really know, if it's going to be over 65,000 or not. But if you're looking for the metropolitan statistical area and state and nation, that's always over 65,000. It's here. You could say, okay, well, show me one of them, and they're all listed right here. But let's just say Albany, Schenectady. I select that. This is just another way. It is only 5-year data, not the 1-year data. And then it loads like this, takes about 20 seconds to load, and then it's going to give you a whole narrative that is not copyrighted that you can use in presentations and things of that sort. So there's just a little bonus. I didn't have this in the original narrative of what I was going to present, but I just thought I'd show this as well because some of this information is in here: metropolitan statistical areas and other large geographies. So okay, I think that's what I wanted to show. I hope it's helpful. And I think, Crystal, this is being recorded, right? And we'll put this up in a few weeks.
Correct. Yes, it is. The recording will be available in less than 30 business days or less.
Okay. All right. Okay. So any other questions, or do you need to say anything, Crystal?
Yes, and thank you, David. And thank you for circling to those narrative profiles. That was good. But to know, I can add that link also in the chat. But the larger geographies and the smaller geographies, you covered that for April, and we appreciate you. Before we conclude, I'd like to thank everyone who played a role in today's webinar. Thank you, the audience, for spending your time with us this afternoon. We're very interested in hearing from you on how we are doing. Please take a moment to fill out the evaluation that will appear when you exit the webinar. And that brings us to a close. Thank you again, and we hope you have a great afternoon.